Today we have with us Mr. Rajesh, who is an alumni of IIM Kozhikode from the batch of 2007. He has worked with City previously, and now in December 2008 he co-founded FACE, which is Focus Academy of Career Enhancement. This has enabled over 2.5 million graduates to realize their dreams. So welcome Mr. Rajesh.
Hey.
We are very pleased to have you here.
Sure.
So,
Pleasure is mine as well.
Okay. So, can you tell me something more about FACE and what inspired you to start FACE?
Okay. So, FACE, we are in the talent supply chain business. We facilitate talent acquisition, talent development for enterprises. We do it through partnerships with colleges where we go and administer employability enhancement programs.
Okay.
Long story short, we help graduates become more employable and help them find jobs as well. That's what we do.
Okay, so I believe for any startup, validation is very important. So, can you brief us how did you validate your idea?
So the best validation is if you get some paying customers.
Yes.
So obviously there are multiple approaches. You could do a lot of market research, get down to building a prototype or a POC, and then you go to the market and try to get customers' feedback directly and keep chiseling the product as you go along. That's one approach.
Okay.
The other approach is like, say, you go to the market with the assumption that, okay, this is what the market wants, throw it out to the market, push it so hard that somebody will at least bite it. And then once the execution starts, you keep iterating and improving the product. We took the latter route because what you're solving for is such a fundamental and broad-based problem anyway.
Okay.
Job skills primarily translated to being able to articulate well, speak properly, and also do some bit of problem-solving aptitude training.
Okay.
There's no rocket science around that in that sense. So the ease of segment that we probably got into didn't require us to probably do so much of research, so to speak. Yeah.
Okay, so how important is market research for any startup?
I would say only it's important to the extent of being able to give you some conviction that what you're doing is right. You could go to great depths in terms of weeks of months together of research, focus study, focus group studies, and so on and so forth. But that may or may not give you as much gumption to get started. So market research and study to the extent that it convinces you that it's all right and this is a worthy enough bet for you to like proceed.
Okay. Okay.
It's a very individualistic thing. If you're a paranoid first bencher, batch topper kind of person, you'll do it for 2 months. If you're somebody like me who's like the last quartile of the batch, you'll just like say, सोचा चलो जाके बेचते हैं, बेचा फिर वापस आके बनाते हैं.
Okay.
ये हो जाता है.
Okay, so I would like to know that how do you choose your co-founder? Like, what qualities do you look in? And
Finding a co-founder is like actually finding a life partner.
okay,
It's even more trickier and complicated because in any regular working scenario, you spend more time with your co-founder and less time with your life partner actually. So if in a 24 hours you're working for 14 hours, 12 hours, and obviously outside of time is like 4 hours, 6 hours in total. So the decision around the co-founder itself is super critical. Not so you wouldn't like say go and find somebody because that person has some specific skills and all of those things. I'm not saying you shouldn't look for that. Let's say I'm a business guy and I want a technical co-founder, I'll go find one. That's there. But if you just go back to the analogy of a life partner, you wouldn't go find somebody because like say one feature, right, in a person. You'll rather go for the whole package and you have that whole chemistry going and all of those things. Fitment and whatever you would do in terms of pursuing and finding a life partner, all of those things will like happen in a co-founder scenario also. Very critical that value system wise you're aligned. Very critical that ethics wise you're aligned. Very critical that aspiration wise you're aligned.
yes,
These three becomes very, very cardinal around.
these are very
And you can't induce or influence such things in a person,
yes,
particularly in a very competitive scenario. So you will want to go find an equal and be an equal partner. equal co-founder. If you have 4 of you guys, it should be like, say, all 4 of you should have equal amount of trust and respect for each other. It cannot be like, say, you are the big boss and because you got the major breakthrough idea and you will take 50% and the other 3 people are like somewhat less and you will give them smaller. It doesn't work. Then they're not co-founders.
Yes.
You have to have a lot of respect, you have to have a lot of faith, blind belief. Practically, you're going to bed with a guy with whom you have to, like, say, sustain the remainder of whatever tenure of your entrepreneurship journey itself is. That way, we've been extremely fortunate to have Venkat. We were good friends, became great partners for contests and competitions during our 2-year stint here. He was my classmate, the geeky guy that I was talking about, right? He's me. That's him, Venkat. He was a batch topper and all of those things. Extreme compliments, polar opposites, but very strong on value system and ethics. Similar.
Okay.
Very, very passionate about whatever we did. Overly ambitious. All of those things kind of married. And we had enough courtship period during our 2 years here. Not that we used to hang out or party or do anything. Zero. We'll only, like, say, meet for our B-School contest. We had practically won every strategy / marketing / operations contest in ABC, L, FMS, Excel.
That's good.
So that kind of strengthened our friendship to great chemistry. We started trusting each other because in a B-School contest, that kind of comes close to being a competitive environment. We built confidence and trust in each other over a period. That helped. And team building is very similar. It all starts with trust, and you should start looking at adding a person or including anybody in your team only when you really, really need.
Yes.
It's not like, see, you take and keep stock and then baad mein dekha jayega. It's not a.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So Rajesh, did you pivot at any time? And if yes, then what made you pivot?
So people pivot for multiple reasons to start with, right? So one, you're pursuing a particular product strategy or idea. You either hit saturation in that white space, so much so that उसके आगे कुछ बढ़ नहीं सकता because पूरा market ले लिया. Then you have to necessarily look for the next thing. Otherwise, you become a decaying organization, right? You can't just, you have to keep running. That's when an organization will flourish. Because unless there are enough challenges, then the entrepreneur becomes stale. That's practically what happens. So you have to keep looking at expanding as and when you keep hitting plateaus. That's the right way of pivoting. For unfortunate reasons also, you end up pivoting because your initial hypothesis with which we went to the market may have been, like, say, proven wrong. And then you're required to pivot. In our case, what happened was, since we were starting out with a very simple problem, when we hit pan-India scale, and after that there was nothing much for us to do in that space, we had to necessarily expand our line of service itself. Then we got into enterprise segment, we started working on building products for that. Then we realized that the enterprise segment is extremely competitive. We had, like, multi-billion-dollar fund valuation companies which are in that play, and it's practically not possible as a bootstrap company for us to compete. Plus the economic appreciation of, in terms of the money that they were paying and the respect that we were gaining and in the competitive landscape, it didn't merit that we keep doing that. So in the most recent development, about a year and a half back, we kind of slowed down on the enterprise-based solutions, focused more on the supply side itself, started looking at deep scaling so that I can still solve a significant problem for the enterprise itself. So yes, we've expanded from one segment to the next segment, and we pivoted from one to the second to the third in some way.
Okay. So these were some of the aspects which are very important for a startup. So can you tell us about what are the reasons not to start up?
That's a tough one. So people typically get enamored by the idea that starting up a school, you become the poster boy, the media is going to celebrate. If you succeed, you have become multiple things, right? Obviously, the definition of success itself will, like, say, very, very varying for many people. But a lot of people, from what I've seen, want to start up because they want to be their own boss.
Okay.
It is all right, in my opinion, if this comes from a slightly less, in terms of pedigrees, in terms of exposure kind of person. That's all right. That's typically how people start. They want to get into business because they don't want to have a boss breathing down their neck. It's all right. But B-schoolers, competitive guys who been through the grind and come to be the top 1% of the intelligentsia in the country, that'd be a little lame in my view. sorry if I'm sounding harsh, but you should rather want to like say start something either you're super interested and excited about, or you want to like say do something around scale, impact, and all of those things. Scale and impact are functions which you should be able to like define also. Money, number of people, or some metric. If broadly you're able to like say converge on these things, you could start. Otherwise, if you're just looking at, okay, I don't want to be a corporate jockey and I want to be like my own boss, that's not a great reason to start. Second, you shouldn't start if you kind of somewhere believe that you want a lot of balance in life. वर्क लाइफ बैलेंस के चक्कर में कोई फंसता है तो उसको स्टार्टअप करना नहीं चाहिए. उसमें वर्क लाइफ बैलेंस होता नहीं है. इट्स ओनली वर्क लाइफ इंटीग्रेशन. इट्स लाइक आई एम प्रैक्टिकली wired in all 7 days. My phone is my office. My family understands that.
Yes.
My kids keep quiet because when I'm getting a call, because my son is 4 and my daughter is 2. That level of integration is what is needed. On a Sunday, Saturday, Monday, doesn't matter. So if somebody is too fussy about, no, I want my balance, I want my trips, I want to do this, and you know what, I also want to be a cool unicorn startup founder. That's not. It doesn't add up. Even more simpler thumb rule. Do you want a 5-day work week or a 6-day work week is the question you should ask yourself. If you want a 6-day work week in a very excited manner, then you are, if you're a 5-day work week, you should be more impactful. कुछ नहीं होता है. वो स्टार्टअप में इतना बसड़ करता है कि you can't really like say filter out and say, okay, I'll do 2 hours and solve this problem, and then there is no plan. There is only madness. There is only chaos. So if you're a very orderly person, all of those things, and you can't handle so much of uncertainty, you shouldn't start up.
Okay.
Like say if you're going to lose heart because like say your grade dropped because of something, you're not startup material. Let's just be. I'm not saying it in a very derisive manner or anything. It's just that you're wired for something else is what I would say.
Okay.
Third, if I were to like say call out, I would say if you are somebody who is always cribbing, whining, नहीं यार ये ना यार ऐसे यार क्या करूँ यार मतलब कल ना प्रोजेक्ट है ये है वो है. If you're somebody who just keeps talking about problems, you shouldn't start. What happens is you'll end up wasting so much of your energy, and if you have a co-founder लड़का उसका भी मतलब दिमाग बेजा फ्राई करोगे, परेशानी है. So you shouldn't like say just start because if you're any of these personality related aspects are somewhat in this zone, or you have those shiny objecty things which you want to pursue and you want to start. You should start when you really thrive and revel in the whole idea of chaos. Just the corollary of the question what you asked. You should start when you are like say willing to and enjoy the whole idea of like say 7 days I'm clued in. There is no break, time off. I'm not saying that you'll just kill yourself, but you're always on.
Yes.
If you can't be either of these two, I don't think it's a great idea. And to a large extent, there is so much of glamorization of startup and entrepreneurship that primarily thanks to the media that we are getting exposed to. Largely, whatever media we end up reading, Economic Times, any other magazine, everybody is eulogizing startup founders and all of those things. And it's obviously attractive for us. It's exactly how it used to be. When somebody asked you in class 6, what would you become when you graduate or बड़े बन के क्या बनोगे? आपने कोई डॉक्टर ने बोला, कोई बोला होगा डॉक्टर, आर्मी बनूंगा, क्रिकेटर बनूंगा, कुछ तो बोला होगा. 8th में किसी ने पूछा तो आंसर बदल गया होगा. 12th में कुछ और आ गया होगा. Now, if you go back and think as to why you were saying, because your exposure to those set of people was very exciting and you said, यार मुझे ना ऐसे बनना चाहिए. In today's time and world and scenario, we are exposed to business leaders and startup founders who are successful. And somehow startup founders are cooler. Right?
Yes.
And we are automatically enamored by the charm that they bring in and yeah, मुझे भी startup founder बनना है. So don't get enamored. It's extremely difficult to be this, become the CEO of Levers or Hindustan Unilever or a large bank or anything at all. You have to be super duper smart and hardworking. Whatever I said applies to that guy also. He will be a 7-day work week guy. He is always wired, extremely enterprising guy. And then he goes on to become, he or she goes on to become the CEO of that particular enterprise. So it's not like, say, only in getting into a startup or the cool quotient around it or the general air around it के लिए तो startup मत करो. ऐसा नहीं कि मतलब guys who do that are all idiots. They are like far more smarter people.
So these were some really great experiences, and some of them were very relatable also. So nice meeting you and nice talking to you. Thank you for coming here.
My pleasure, man. Always great to be home. This is my home, right?
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.